guys, welcome back to We Watch Movie. I am Mike. Thanks for spending a moment of your day with me today. As promised, we are going to rank the Kevin Williamson movies. This doesn't include TV or the shows, but it does include stuff that he wasn't actually credited fully for doing. Stuff that he was a creative guidance person on, like Scream 5, stuff that he produced, like a movie called Venom that some people probably don't know about, and even Halloween H2O, which he did a little bit of the writing for, didn't end up getting credited for the writing because Robert Zappia did most of the writing, but was also an executive producer for, so you know he had his fingers all up in that. Speaking of putting your fingers in things, that's not what I meant to say. If you like stuff like this, if you like horror movies, if you like Halloween, Scream, Friday the 13th, all that good shit, please consider clicking subscribe so that you know when we make a video. And also click the bell. This desk is so fucking squeaky! Stop looking at me, Swan! So let's go trick-or-treating, let's go fucking drinking, let's all go rent Pumpkinhead on VHS, cause Halloween never ends, Halloween never ends, Halloween never ends. Yeah, this is a really hard list to make because even the movies in this list that are considered bad still are lovable for many people in the Scream community because they have that DNA and that vibe to them. So starting off at number 12, unfortunately, it's going to be the movie that Kevin Williamson wrote and directed, Teaching Mrs. Tingle. My wife would argue with me to no end about this. She fucking loves this movie. And even this movie, I like it. I don't hate it by any means. It's got some stuff I really enjoy about it. One of my favorite Eve 6 songs is prominently featured in the soundtrack and in the movie, the opening of the movie.
Take my tongue, it's cocked and loaded. The board has dubbed you special student.
Helen Mirren plays the bitchiest bitch of the West, and I mean, she makes you hate her guts. It's like Clueless mixed with Scream at its best. And at its worst, you have Katie Holmes just kind of dumb-facing her way through the entire movie. And honestly, the problem is, it starts off with a bang, it's going awesome, it really does feel like a Clueless movie. Once it reaches a point midway through when they've got this teacher and she's a hostage, the movie has no idea what to do. We're either gonna have to kill her or think of something else to do with the rest of the movie, and it never really has the... Yeah. And it never really wants to go there and become a full horror movie. It wants to stay a comedy, sort of like young adult thriller. So it just trips over itself for the last half of the movie and just really just got repetitive, and I ended up just really bored with it every time I watched it. But again, there's a lot of stuff to love, even in Teaching Miss Tingle. Number 11, and this is the one I didn't even know Kevin Williamson had anything to do with. I'd seen the cover for this 1,000 times, but it just looks like one of those shitty kind of, and not all of them were shitty, but one of those after dark movies or something, or straight to DVD movies that like could be good, but probably isn't. The ones that, you know, when you used to walk Blockbuster or your local video store that you might consider renting if the cover was cool enough, but even in the back of your head, you're like, I just rented a piece of shit, and I know it. So I never actually checked it out. The movie name is Venom, which is already putting you way behind in the search engines. You gotta find this fucker. But the cover's this big hulking dude over top of these people. It's a Louisiana-based horror movie. Now, Kevin Williamson just produced this one. He did not write it or direct it, but it, again, you can feel his DNA in this. I can feel your DNA in me, Kevin. That sounded weird. But it's a 2005 film directed by the same dude who directed I Know What You Did Last Summer, which was also written by Williamson, Jim Gillespie. And I gotta tell you, I actually enjoyed this movie. It's only got a 4.6 on IMDb, and I understand that. I didn't know this was actually a theatrical released movie that was supposed to be a big deal. They wanted to start a whole new slasher franchise with this. There's this voodoo thing they used to do where they would take these snakes and they would sick them on someone who's done something awful, and they're supposedly sucked the evil out of them. And there's this lady carrying around this fucking suitcase of snakes. One thing leads to another. It bites this trucker guy who everybody makes fun of, this big hulking redneck dude who has familial ties to the teens that are in this movie, and he becomes Mr. Jangles, which is the worst fucking name for a slasher of all time. But still, he becomes Mr. Jangles, and he's this big, huge dude who walks around just murdering the shit out of people. And They fuck up and do this stupid Saw thing where the camera all of a sudden would be like, ha 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 ha. And everything would be like you just took acid or something. I hated that. They did do that a few times in this, but that being said, for a slasher movie, there's some really good kills in here. This guy is scary as shit. When he's stalking people, I was actually freaked out by him. He's a formidable slasher. There's a lot to like in the movie Venom, even though there's some fucking awful CGI when it comes to the snakes and some fire and some things that they do. Some good kills, a really good origin story for a slasher, and a good bad guy. I'm actually disappointed they didn't make another one of these and just tighten it up a bit. Number 10, there's a whole lot to say about this one, and I may on our Patreon make a whole deep dive video review for Cursed, which is going to be the number 10 movie on this list, because there's just a lot that went on. There's a lot to say about it. I may even make a full-on Patreon review for Venom. I don't know. So check out the Patreon and link below. There's butt ton of stuff there. But no, Cursed. This is directed by Wes Craven. The Scream team gets together again, and Wes Craven said, look, they paid me double to make this movie, and it's the last movie I'll ever make for money, because I ended up working double to get the salary they gave me. The studio got so involved with this movie. They had the movie. They had what seemed like a good movie done, a werewolf movie by the Scream team, which just sounds cool anyways. Well, we ended up getting, after studio interference, and they took out scary scenes, they made it PG-13, they replaced some cool stuff with terrible CGI stuff. They just fucked this thing to Cancun, all right? In a very uncomfortable place, like the backseat of the Volkswagen or its butt. That being said, the final product that we actually got, that we watched, is still super entertaining. It's a bad movie by almost every metric. It's a bad movie, but damn, you can tell it had something special there. It feels like someone took a good Wes Craven, Kevin Williamson movie and made a stab version of it, and that's the version that we got. But yeah, Christina Ricci, Jesse Eisenberg, Portia de Rossi, Shannon Elizabeth, Milo Ventimiglia, the kid from fucking Rocky, Derek Mears plays the werewolf, Joshua Jackson actually has a pretty good role in this. Joshua Jackson's one of those weird dudes. It's like, that guy seems like he has it, and it feels like every movie he's in forgets he's in the movie. You can tell that they had high hopes for this movie, and I think that's what happened. The studio got greedy and just fucked it up, like Tommy Boy with a biscuit.
And then I take my naughty pet and I go. Oh!
But the first half of the movie has all the smart writing, the cool characters, the neat vibes, the werewolf, even though you can tell it's not scary, I wouldn't say, but the way they shoot it at first, where it's so close to the werewolf, they were taking it really seriously and were doing a great job with it, and then the thing just goes way off the fucking rails at some point, and the terrible CGI shows up, and it's just, you can tell it's just an absolutely broken movie at its core. But that being said, Scream fans, I think a lot of times we'll find things to enjoy in this movie. I know I did. I had fun with it, and it ends up being a fun ride. It ends up being kind of campy and dumb, and there's a lot to appreciate in it. Again, I like Cursed and will watch it again for enjoyment, but you can't help but feel sick in your tchotchkes about how good this movie could have actually been. Number 9, and it actually hurt me to put this movie above even those movies, because I pretty much have something that I love about all these movies. But this next movie, people are going to be upset it's not higher on the list for sure. My number 9 is going to be I Know What You Did Last Summer, written by Kevin Williamson. Actually, little known fact, was actually written before Scream, but nobody wanted it until Scream came out. And then when Scream came out, they were like, give me that fucking script, you son of a bitch. But yeah, I Know What You Did Last Summer is all nostalgia for me. When you go back and watch this movie, I can't figure out in my head why it got so popular, because it's bad. There's so much bad about this movie, and I think we all love it so much, people who grew up in that time, because it was VR Troopers version of Scream. We all loved it because it was well, I can only watch Scream so many times, and then this fucker comes out, and you're like, all right, VR Troopers is on. Let's go. But going back and watching it, man, there was so much bad stuff in that. There's very, very little horror in that. Some of the character stuff is just stupid as fuck. Like Freddie Prinze Jr. just letting Ryan Felipe's character just go full on Ezra Miller on Jennifer Love Hewitt, just standing there and taking it. He was such a bitch in that movie. What I do love about I Know What You Did Last Summer is like the classic lines, like the "What are you waiting for?" Some of the idea of what you thought was going to be really cool. You know, oh my God, we've got another Scream on our hands. What? And it's just this dude with a hook and a fisherman's jacket, and the story's not even that good. But still, yet the ride up to that was fun. The soundtrack of the movie is awesome. The setting of the movie was great. I mean, where they shot this thing, it's just, the whole thing had a great vibe to it. But yeah, it is cringy to go back and watch this cast walk around and like try to be cool. It's just weird, man. But it did mean a lot at the time to the horror genre, so that's why it gets a little bit higher than maybe I actually feel about it in this list. Number 8, Sick, just came out, loved it, gave it an 8. I know it seems low on this list, and maybe it'll go up with time. I did a full review for it that just went up, was the last video that was on the channel, so I won't go into into it too much there. I'll put that link to that at the end of this video. But yeah, I love the movie. I think the reason it's not even higher on this list is because it's just so simple. You know what I mean? I think some people are getting confused about that. Like, why is everybody talking about this movie like it's the greatest thing ever? It's just a standard slasher. And it's like, yeah, it is. It's just a well-oiled, well-done slasher. And there's nothing insane about it. There's nothing that's groundbreaking really about it. It's a nice little slasher that reminds you of the old Scream days. Speaking of Scream, number 7, Scream 3. I used to fucking hate Scream 3. I used to hate it. It pissed me off so bad that this movie existed. I hated it. And the more and more I got older and the more I watched it, the more I learned to enjoy it for what it was. Like, they got the characters that we love right. Dewey and Gail and Sydney and all them, they were still there, and the heart and soul of those characters was still on screen. The movie just got lost in this dumbass Hollywood story, and they got too meta with these corny actors and doing this whole Beverly Hills thing. So it lost its way a lot, but it's got a great reveal at the end of it, a pretty great motive for Roman and that whole thing. It just, at the time, it was very, very disappointing coming off of Scream and Scream 2, but I've learned to love it and really appreciate the great stuff about it. Also, because of what happened in Columbine, the whole movie got nerfed. Another movie that was probably fucked by the Weinsteins that they just ruined. We could have had a whole different movie with Kevin Williamson. Now, Kevin Williamson didn't directly write this. It was written by Aaron Kruger, but he was involved with the process in multiple different ways. Number 6, Scream 4. Scream 4 is a movie that I have mixed feelings about it. It was a return to Scream being mean again. It needed that after Scream 3. So there's just so much love, so much badassery happening in Scream 4, some really great kills. That being said, I was never in love with the killer reveal. That whole Marsha thing just, it never stuck with me. The scene in the hospital at the end goes on way too long. I mean, they stretched that thing out harder than a dude with a little wiener trying to take dick pics. The weird cinematography going on in the whole movie where everything was like bright and blurry was just strange and weird. My least favorite Scream opening of all time. They really went too hard with that one. That being said, in a franchise that in my opinion has no terrible movies, Scream 4 is the second best one in that franchise. There's a lot to love. Number 5, The Faculty. Guaranteed to jack you up. I know he doesn't scream when he said that, but I've had 2 cups of coffee and it's only like 9:15 a.m. Now, Kevin Williamson not only wrote, but also produced this one. It was filmed right about the time that H2O was, which partly explains Josh Hartnett's weird fucking haircut. Another Kevin Williamson movie that's got smart-ass teens, that's cool as shit for the time that it was in, that has an amazing soundtrack. This one involves aliens, Robert Patrick, awesome job casting. It's just got all the vibes. Kevin Williamson just has a way of taking these can't hardly wait type of stories and perverting them into weird little horror stories, and I love it. The Faculty also has just a Kevin Williamson mainstay of just having this poppy bubblegum cool kid flavor to it, but also at the same time has like a sinister underbelly with these kids doing drugs and talking about fucking and all the stuff that they do. Man, The Faculty is just a weird little time capsule and I love it. Number 4, I struggled with the number 5, 4, and 3 rankings here. I just struggled with them. I just want to let you guys know I could move this list around a lot and still be happy with it. Some people are going to be very upset about where I rank this stuff, but I don't know what to tell you. Number 4 is going to be Halloween H2O. I just did a whole video, which I'll put at the end of this, making fun of all the dumb shit that is in Halloween H2O. And Kevin Williamson's not credited as a writer for this. There was a whole thing that went down, but throughout the multiple scripts and treatments, he's definitely got his fingers in this one, as we discussed earlier about the fingering. Plus, he was a producer of this one as well. And also, it's based basically on the fucking Scream movies. It's got so much Scream in it. Even if he didn't write it, you could probably add it to this list. Halloween H2O is probably the one movie that really didn't need that Kevin Williamson vibe to it, you know? I mean, it was all about Laurie and Michael, and it felt like they force-fed a lot of the Scream-isms and dimension stuff into this that really didn't need to be. But it is what it is, and it was cool at the time to see Halloween H2O, to see Michael Myers be such a big deal, to see everybody talking about it, everybody going to the theater for it. It was so many people's first theater experience with Halloween, and that was pretty cool. And yeah, just for the importance of that movie more than anything else, it lands higher than some of these other ones on my list, even though I have about a billion fucking problems with it. Number 3, Scream 5, 2022. Again, this being this high might piss people off. He didn't write this one, but he's doing what John Carpenter did for the Halloween trilogy. He's being like sort of the spiritual creative advisor to them. He's listed as a producer for it, but as they've talked, he's the guy they go to for questions and things like that. So I think you have to include this one on the list. Look, Scream 5 didn't break any new barriers or try to outdo Scream or Scream 2. All it tried to do was bring back the franchise with a well-oiled slasher machine. And I think that they did that. And I've talked about it ad nauseum now. If you've watched this channel, it's just a good damn slasher movie, man. And it could have fallen apart in so many ways, and yet it didn't. And while some people were a little bit disappointed that the reveal wasn't bigger or more complex or more surprising, I feel like you got to take a step back and appreciate that they made a pretty damn flawless, even if it didn't blow you away, a pretty damn flawlessly executed Scream movie. Number 2! Scream 2! I think you know where this list is going. Why did I just whoop? What's up with the fingers today? It's fingering fucking Friday, even though it's Tuesday. Second only to our number 1, which is Scream. I think these two are pretty fucking obvious. Scream 2 rules. I think people who think it's better than Scream are off their fucking rockers. But hey, I get it. I love the movie. It's got all the sharpness, the wit, all that good shit that Scream has in it. It's almost more impressive that they came out and wrote such a great movie with Scream 2, considering the pressure that was on them after basically putting the horror genre on their back with Scream when it came out, revitalizing the entire genre, changing the whole world of horror as we know it, even to this day, with what they did with Scream. Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven really deserve, I feel like, even more credit than they get for the Scream franchise and what they did with that. And it's something that's still going 25 plus years later. And by the way, a franchise that movie by movie is quality. So many great franchises we have major dips. You know, major, oh my God, 3 movie bad runs, you know, terrible, awful sequels, jumps, cutting of the timeline, all the stuff like that. Scream, you got to give it credit for, because as a whole, the quality is pretty fucking great. So yeah, Scream 1's my number 1, Scream 2's my number 2. How do you guys feel about this whole list? I know other people would rearrange it completely differently, but hopefully we talked about some movies that you hadn't really heard about, maybe didn't know that he was involved with, including Venom. I just love that Kevin Williamson exists. I love that his work exists. It's all very nostalgic for me, and I love that it's still going today, and we're still bringing it back. It's an awesome time to be the fuck alive, my friends. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button, and if you enjoyed this video, click the like button. It helps a lot. I would appreciate it. It only takes you a fucking second. Remember what we said about fingers? Finger that fucking like button. Why am I'm going into Mark Wahlberg now. You better finger that fucking like button, or I swear to God, I'm gonna come over your house, Nicole. Love your fucking faces, guys. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you soon. Halloween never ends, suck my fucking dick, and I don't really care what Blumhouse fucking says. Put him in a box, or suck a fucking cock. You can say he's dead, but we all know he's not, yeah. So let's go trick-or-treating, let's go fucking drinking. Let's all go rent Pumpkinhead on VHS. Cause Halloween never ends, Halloween never ends, Halloween never ends, yeah.